Psychology is the scientific study of the mind, and in an enlightened society, it would be taught in elementary school. But we are not in an enlightened society. In simple terms, each human being is made up of three personas: body, mind, and spirit, each one with its own desires. And the universal goal of individual self-mastery is to serve the desire of the spirit. This takes great discipline, because as we are about to discuss, our mind innately seeks to control us. There is psychology and there is group psychology. In group psychology, an individual will suppress all desires that are deemed unacceptable by the group. These suppressed desires will invariably control a person without their knowing. This knowledge is nothing new. Machiavelli instructed leaders centuries ago to divide the people into groups in order to weaken and control them. Those in power have known this for millennia. The Yoga Sutras outlined a process of overcoming this thousands of years ago. It taught how a person could become enlightened to the true nature of the mind and liberate themselves from unwanted influence. The ancient writings of Sumer describe a ruling class which kept its power by keeping mankind spiritually repressed. 100 years ago, Sigmund Freud introduced this knowledge to the modern world. He wrote that the biggest obstacle to liberating yourself from ego was group mind, because in order for the individual to examine themselves completely, one must question everything, including the group. The ego mind has always been obsessed with group identity, and by nature, it seeks approval or control within the group. The key to manipulating the masses is to keep them ensnared in group mind. Freud's work held the key to individual enlightenment and was met with strong disinterest by the ruling class of Vienna, who had no interest in the liberation of the individual mind. Edward Bernays, however, Freud's nephew and protege, found strong interest for his uncle's work in America. In the early 1900s, the U.S. government and corporate America employed Bernays not to liberate the individual from group mind, but to keep us enslaved in it and manipulate our thoughts and behavior. In 1927, Paul Mazur of Lehman Brothers infamously wrote that we must shift America from a needs to a desires culture. Man's desires must overshadow his needs. The overall strategy was to divide the public and stimulate irrational desires. The only way of achieving this goal was by use of the media. A new reality was designed with a specific intention of making people more anxious, afraid, and aroused, keeping us in an unending, irrational fight or flight state of mind, where we only find solace in group mind conformity. All of this has been done without our awareness. And by 1975, the CIA had infiltrated all areas of news media.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal?
We do have people who submit pieces to American journals.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks?
This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to the national news services, AP and UPI?
Well, again, I think we're getting into the kind of detail, Mr. Chairman, that I'd prefer to handle in executive session.
In Russia, Vladislav Surkov, who studied economics and theater, was tasked with creating a world of fake news to keep the Russian people anxious and confused.
Surkov turned Russian politics into a bewildering, constantly changing piece of theatre. He used Kremlin money to sponsor all kinds of groups, from mass anti-fascist youth organisations to the very opposite, neo-Nazi skinheads. And liberal human rights groups who then attacked the government. Surkov even backed whole political parties that were opposed to President Putin. But the key thing was that Surkov then let it be known that this was what he was doing, which meant that no one was sure what was real or what was fake in modern Russia. As one journalist put it, it's a strategy of power that keeps any opposition constantly confused, a ceaseless shape-shifting that is unstoppable because it is indefinable.
These crimes against humanity are more apparent now than ever, but there are still millions entrenched in group mind who religiously accept the mainstream media narrative to be truth. Our mind innately seeks to control us, and if we do not take control of our own mind, the media will control it for us. The only solution is rugged individualism and critical thinking. But this is a path that few choose to take. And so in the meantime, whoever controls the media controls the herd. And nothing short of a miracle will ever change that.